What a day in World Cup qualifying, hey? What a day. What a day. So, I warned people. Maybe I don't know if warn is the right word. I didn't warn anybody of anything, but maybe it was something that was brought up to the attention of many. 4,095 meters. That's somewhere along 13, almost 14,000 feet above sea level, something along those lines. If I end up being incorrect, you can always correct me. But I know it's there, but it's more or less around that distance or that height or that altitude, if you will. I'll talk about that real quick because there wasn't much to talk about other than that, how gassed Venezuela looked from the early onset, pretty much the entire match. The ball that would have a wicked effect. I didn't see the game, mind you. I didn't see it. I did see the highlights. I did see, condensed packages of it. And I'm glad I did because it was a pretty, it was pretty dreadful seeing Venezuela play, but I understand. When you're thinking more about breathing than playing, then kind of the problem ends up lying there. I don't know what's worse, though. I don't know what ended up being worse today. Chile playing as bad as they did, or Bolivia being in World Cup qualifying spots. Seventh, to be more precise. They're actually in World Cup playoff spot position. That ends up being kind of telling us how that bottom half of CONMEBOL have been so far. And that ends up being pretty much a tournament in and of itself between 4, maybe 5 teams. The upper half and the bottom half are just kind of playing 2 different tournaments, if you will. Again, big win for Bolivia. However, and whatever you want to say about it, I think it's valid. The true testament will be that, well, now they're going to play from here on out there. Until that effect wears out. Until everybody's able to catch up, and then, well, there's not many options left. At that point, you're going to have to play Mount Everest if you have to use altitude as your equalizer, if you will. Argentina-Chile was extremely lopsided. And I talked about it on my podcast on GSPN. I talked about it basically at Sportsmax. And I'll talk about it again. And I said it in videos here on the channel, talking about how this is basically a passing of the baton, if you will, but of a different nature. Because now, in the comparison ends up being that before Leo Messi was the yeast that kind of kept the cake together, if you will, or the bread together, or whatever. It was what held everything together from not falling apart. And, that was it. Everything depended on that ingredient to make it all happen. And now Leo Messi ends up being the cherry on top. What is celebrated, what is revered. Of course, today was Angel Di Maria, although there was a lot of chants that was being sung as they say, hey, Leo, you're not here. They're celebrating the Copa America win. Messi's not there. And, of course, he's recovering. He's about to start playing for Inter Miami. So, of course, the travel would kind of end up complicating his return because of all the other conditions. I digress. It's one of those instances where you see Argentina saying, hey, you know what? We don't need... Well, we saw it in the Copa America final, too. When Leo Messi gets injured, he ends up coming off. And, of course, Argentina still win against Colombia. It was a matter of time where you started to see, okay, well, they don't need him. And they showed on several occasions before that they didn't need him, or it wasn't paramount to have him on the pitch, that they were able to do enough, although the opposition at that point maybe wasn't what you would expect. Hey, well, they're only playing this team. Well, today you could probably say the same because, well, they're only playing Chile. Chile were bad. Chile were bad. There was just nothing else to say because there was really nothing they could muster up. There was really nothing they could create. The defending was okay at best. Their midfield was at best. The attacking was non-existent at best. So you had a pretty bad team out there that really didn't... At one point you saw they were showing the cameras, at least the Argentine feed was showing, which is basically where I watch the games. For Argentina, Colombia, I use Colombia. I use different countries for different broadcasts depending on how, just to kind of get a better vision or a better idea or better feel for the game. There was a picture, or there was an image of Ricardo Gareca just basically resigned. He alongside his assistant Bocha Santin, and there were no answers. There were no answers. There were no options. There was nothing that Chile could do to fluster Argentina. Yeah, a lot of times it went, and there were chances, and they were creating, and yeah, Argentina still. In the beginning of the second half, all of a sudden things clicked. Alexis McAllister scores. Great play by Julian Alvarez, by the way. And of course, Lautaro Martinez, who lets the ball go between his legs, and McAllister's there, kind of everything perfectly timed. And 1-0. Then, of course, the second goal comes. Julian Alvarez scores his first goal at El Monumental as a national team player. What a goal. That's a golazo. And, of course, in the end, Paulo Dybala. And that you have to give Dybala a lot of credit. Dybala, at one point, many were talking about him no longer being with the national team when he didn't get called up for the Copa America. That, well, he's done. But he knew that he wasn't. That he needs to persist and work a little bit more. Ends up working, of course, behind the scenes. He ends up rejecting an offer, a succulent offer from Saudi to stay at Roma. Stays at Roma. And of course, gets the call up to Argentina, comes in and gets his prize, gets his goal. Wearing Leo Messi, wearing the number 10, ironically. So, good for him. Good for him that he's able to, keep his mind straight, keep his head straight, stay strong mentally in those types of situations. That it was a very complicated summer for him from that perspective. But Argentina showed that they are the system, that the system is the players, that regardless of who comes in, they know exactly what to do within that system of play, and each and every player comes in and they respond for the most part, more often than not. And that to me is the most impressive facet of Argentina as a team. It's that whoever comes in functions, comes in, performs well. At least at the very least, they get a passing grade, which ends up being the most important facet of this Argentina side. And again, like I said, no longer do they need Messi. No longer is Messi trying to keep everything together. He's the one that now can enjoy and watch everything happening, and of course, the raising of the trophies and the environment around the national team. For him, it ends up being a bit of free time compared to the free time he now has at Inter Miami. And now enjoying going to the national team, although he is enjoying his time at Inter Miami with his friends. And it's something different compared to the Messi that suffered, that cried, that lost finals, that was being often rebuked and being insulted, to now the one that's revered as the greatest of all time, that's the one that everyone's looking at, the ultimate captain, the one that they always look at and look towards, and hopefully stays maybe another year or two with the national team leading up to the World Cup. Will that happen? I don't know. I don't know yet, and nobody does for that matter. And to see that the team overall can function without him ends up being that much more important. Much more. And when he does come in, they can work around it. There is a workaround where they know where to work, and they know how to move, and they know what their roles are when he's on or where he's not. That ends up really not missing a beat. And of course, a lot of that praise has to go to the team, first and foremost. Second of all, it has to go to the coaching staff that have understood how to kind of adjust and see a team that is so malleable from a tactical standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, and also from a mindset standpoint that understands that at this point you don't see them phased, you don't see them flustered. They're patient. They know, okay, well, we'll try again. We'll try again. We'll try. Oh, we get scored. No problem. We'll try again. We'll keep going. We keep going. We do this. We do that. So for me, that ends up being the most important facet of this Argentine national team and this big win 3-0 against Chile. Of course, now they sit back, they relax, they wait because they have a big test again at the end, or in the second go-around in terms of World Cup qualifiers. They head to Barranquilla to face Colombia. Copa America final again, revisited in an encounter where I don't know what to expect. Of course, we have to wait to see how Colombia plays against Peru, because then the ramifications could be pretty important for Colombia if they don't end up getting the 3 points in Lima. But then if they do and they go up to Argentina, now they could be challenging not only for stay in the top 3, but also to challenge Argentina, which right now those are the only 2 national teams that are kind of putting up a fight, and we'll see how that ends up playing. I'll have more tomorrow, previews or information on Uruguay, on Colombia, of course on Brazil as well, as World Cup qualifiers underway again in this post Copa America. Now focus solely on who ends up qualifying and going to 2026 in CONMEBOL. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Ciao.